The Screen Team is back, and we're getting ready to review 3 more films for you right here on KWOC. We've got Val on this particular review, and Val and I, we both enjoy immensely the movie Gangs of New York. It's a movie that came out in the early 2000s, starring Leonardo DiCaprio, Daniel Day-Lewis. It's got Liam Neeson in there. It's got Cameron Diaz. Scorsese directs it.
Yeah.
How did you first fall in love with this movie?
I watched it. I mean, that was about all it took.
Did you see it in theaters, or did you just see it when it came out?
No, I seen it when it came out on DVD. Well, it might have been VHS back
then. Home video?
No, I watched it, and I was like, wow, this is one of the coolest movies. Kind of really depicting how life was in New York, especially like during this, Civil War's going on.
Sure.
But you've got such a element of history that you don't read about in the history books, really. And I don't know, it's kind of like the mafia where it really started before the Italian mafia came over. But yeah, with your immigrants, this had dealt mostly with the Irish coming over because it was during the potato famine. And but you had the natives who, they were born there, so they wanted to fight for their area. So Daniel Day-Lewis is so awesome in this movie, and I don't look at him as a bad guy though.
How do you look at him? He's
pretty
bad.
He is a bad guy, but I don't know. It's kind of crazy because there's just something cool about him, and even with Leonardo DiCaprio, he plays the son of the priest. The movie starts out, he's having this big battle with the priest, and the priest is the one that basically got the Irish clans together to fight the natives, and ultimately he lost his life. That's Liam Neeson, but he had so much respect for him. And you find out just how much respect he had for him later, after like the whole scenario 16 years later, whenever that his son actually ends up being a part of his group.
His gang.
His gang, because he doesn't know who he is. But there's that one scene where that he talks about the first battle he had with the priest. And he always he talks about him with reverence and respect. And I don't know. I think it's one of those. We talked about that one scene, like where that he finds out who he is, and Leonardo tries to kill him, and like he beats the crap out of him. He's like, "You ain't earned a death by my hand." But he does the same thing to him that his father did to him in the first battle, because his father actually won the first battle. So
took out his eye.
Yeah,
that's
right.
There's a few. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there,
cool.
Val. There's a few things that I really love about this movie. One is Daniel Day-Lewis. I fell in love with his performance in this movie. I felt he should have won the Oscar for it. He was nominated, but he did not win that particular award that year.
He should have.
Another thing that really kind of spoke to me and also kind of changed my attitude and tone was Leonardo DiCaprio. Before this movie came out, DiCaprio was, for lack of a better term, he was a pretty boy actor. He was riding the Titanic wave, doing a lot of those pretty boy kind of things, and he wasn't doing a lot of deep, gritty kind of dramas.
Right.
And this one is what changed my attitude about him. I was like, oh, DiCaprio was amazing in this film, and then from that point on, everything he did, he was amazing in.
Well, he had to start somewhere, and I mean, like What's Eating Gilbert Grape is another.
You know what? I apologize. He was great in that film too.
Yeah,
you're right about that.
But I'm just saying though. You're right. Once he got into this role, he done a fantastic job with it. I think one of the neatest things for me about this movie, you talked about it come out. I want to say it came out in 2000, because if you look at it might have come out in 2001, but I don't think it did. I think it came out in 2000. If you look at the very last scene. Because they end up having their own battle, natives versus the dead rabbits, and where it's the son versus the butcher, and the Civil War intervenes. So I mean, like there's this big battle going on in the city because there's riots everywhere. The military steps in, and ultimately they don't really get to have their battle, but he ends up, taking his life anyway. I wanted to say there was respect there, though. There was respect on both sides. And because he revered him as a son. He looked at him as a son for a long time. But the very last scene, he buries him next to his father. And if you watch that scene change, the Brooklyn Bridge, it shows it changing over the years right up into the Twin Towers. And obviously, Twin Towers are not. It's not. They're not there anymore.
Yeah.
And to me, that's just one of the most impactful scenes. And I mean, and I just for whatever reason that I love that scene. And I remember watching like the director's cut or something like that, and it was one of those 30 years worth of, and literally 30 years worth of capturing different views of that scene right there, just to make that one scene.
Yeah.
So I mean, yeah,
it's a beautiful shot.
Yeah, it is.
Is there anything that you don't like about the film?
No. Nope. I could watch it. It's one of those I could watch it anytime, and it wouldn't, it would never get old to me.
Yeah.
It was one of the first, I told you this too, this is so sad. It was one of the very first DVDs I ever bought, and I let someone borrow it, and I never got it back. I'm not going to name any names because I don't think they're in the listening area.
But if you're watching, we need
I'm
that
on to
DVD
you.
back,
That's right.
man.
That's right. That was wrong, man. That was
Yeah.
one of the first DVDs I ever bought.
Yeah.
And it was well worth it. And I know I watched it. It's one of those that instead, now you can get the DVD that has the full 2-3 hours on it. This one came out when you actually had 2 discs.
Yeah.
And it was like, it's kind of like if you went to the movie theaters, you would have a break in between just to come back and pick up where it, kind of like Titanic did the same thing.
Nice little intermission for sure.
Nice little intermission, but great, just an all-around great movie. Even Cameron Diaz, I think she done a fantastic job with her role. I do. I think she did. I can't picture someone else playing her role.
I could picture 100 different ladies doing a different.
Yeah, but you're a
that
guy.
role.
I'm just saying.
Okay.
Anyway,
we've got a minute here, so I want to argue with you just for a bit. I disagree. I really think that they could have picked 100 different actresses from the from Ireland.
Actually, yeah,
who could have done a better job. I think it was all just name recognition, and I thought she was the weakest part of the film. Sorry, Cameron, if you're watching.
Yeah, no date for you. Actually, just kidding. No, I don't. I really don't. What's the guy's name that played Johnny? Because he's actually he was the kid in E.T.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot.
I thought he was the weakest link, where his role actually could have been
a little bit stronger. Mm-hmm.
Yes, could have been stronger because of he was that inside guy. He knew who he was, and all this being upset over Jenny. I mean, I don't know. I thought his was a weaker one, and they could have chosen somebody a little stronger. But that's where that's my opinion on that one. So
there it is.
Yeah.
There it is. The movie is called Gangs of New York. It's definitely a favorite of both Val and myself. If you're into Scorsese, if you're into strong acting performances, Daniel Day-Lewis, DiCaprio, not Cameron Diaz. It's just strong.
Right.
So check it out, man. Val, thank you for being on the show. Appreciate
Thanks,
you, man. We got some more reviews coming your way next. We've got Alien. We'll be doing Alien a little bit later on in the show. And then coming up next, the 40-year-old version right here on the Screen Team.